Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to show you how this piece of scrap wood has helped me during this pandemic. And it is, so glad I've made this. And let me explain why at the end of the video. Don't skip. Let's jump right into it. So to start this project off, I'm going to cut down a scrap of Baltic birch plywood. This is 3/4 of an inch. This happens to be the tabletop template I used to build those 5 dining tables. You haven't seen that video, it's my last one. Go check it out, it's pretty cool. Anyway, moving forward, you can see it's riddled with holes. And I'm going to fill those holes real quickly with, well, wood filler? No, not really. With a little bit of wood? Absolutely not. We're going to use my tried and true favorite, CA glue. This is Starbond's medium thick variety. I'm simply just going to flood the surface, spray some activator. Within about 10 to 20 seconds, I'm able to sand it flush, and it is extremely flush to the touch. Then the larger holes, I'm going to try the same thing. I'm going to actually patch the bottom with a little bit of blue tape, and then I'm going to rotate this thing over and do the same process over and over again, flooding the surface about 25% full, put some activator on, and then sand it down. This process took me about 4 or 5 minutes, and it is absolutely flush to the touch. It's at this point I'm making a few marks that are going to be, symmetrical to each side. I'm going to rough them out with a square, as you see here. I'm going to round over the edge, the 90-degree edge of the inside corner of each of these marks, and then I'm simply going to just take them over to the bandsaw and cut them out. With the pieces cut, I'm turning my attention to the spindle sander, and this is going to make quick work of getting this nice and smooth. Well, with the piece almost in its final form, I'm going to take a 1/4 inch round over bit and round over the top and bottom edges all the way around. This is basically going to make the piece comfortable to touch. However, I do have to take away a little more material where you see me making those marks. I'm just going to use 100 grit sandpaper on my random orbit sander, take my time, and then carve out what I need to. And there you go. You can see the exposed edges. I kind of like that look, but it's going to serve a purpose. Once that's all done, a little bit of final sanding, everything up to 220. And now it's time to put on some finish. I'm actually putting on a little bit of this Odie's oil. Now, I've never used this before. It's kind of like a hard wax oil. And the instructions are to buff it on and buff it off. And that's it. And I'm actually doing this a little bit prematurely, quite frankly, because I'm having to install some hardware on this, and I still got to cut into this piece. So please ignore the fact that I'm finishing this before it's actually finished. So just take that into consideration. Although this finish is pretty cool. I've been using this piece for about a week now, and I will say that it's protecting the wood really well. And you're going to see what I mean in just a few minutes. Now that hardware I told you about that I was needing to install, well, I got just the place to go. So my wife and I play this little game. I come out to her place. This is actually my old garage. It's called Do You Have? And when I need something, especially hardware, I come out here, and guess what? Inside this and inside this, I found these. And this is exactly what I need. I also need a piece of scrap wood, and this maple from a previous cutting board is going to do just nicely. And I want to thank my wife as well. She actually has a huge assortment of hardware that she's collected over the years from estate sales and you name it, and it's really nice to have that resource. All right, moving forward, you see me putting a few marks on this piece of scrap maple. Really, it reminds me of a pinball, what are those called? A pinball arm. It shoots the ball up into the playing surface. And I'm going to do that CA glue trick where you put, blue tape on one side, blue tape on the other, CA them together, and then when you're done shaping what you need to make 2 identical pieces, you can then just pry them apart. I'm going to do that after I drill the hole in the middle as well. Now, to shape these, I'm just putting them on the disc sander, making that kind of teardrop shape, and then I'm going to drill both holes at the same time. And this is what I was talking about. You can simply just take the pieces apart with the blue tape. Using that low adhesion on that blue tape, it works really well if you need to make 2 symmetrical pieces. Now it's time to put a few marks on where I need to drill the hole in the top corners of the actual board you saw me making earlier. This is really simple. Just take it to the drill press. You don't have a drill press, no problem. Just use a hand drill. This really isn't that big a deal. And honestly, these brass screws, I'm not a big fan of flathead screws, but they have a cool aesthetic and I'm going to use them here. But in order to make them fit, I need to countersink them a little bit, which I'm doing here with the countersink bit. And then they are all ready to go to test out. They're going to be held in place with some wing nuts, but before I do that, I need to trim them to size. They're a bit oversized, you can see. And then the angle grinder here is going to make quick work of this. Now the edges of the screws are just a little bit rough, so I'm going to sand them down here at the disc sander, which is going to give me a nice even feel, which is going to also be really nice to accept the wing nut as well. As you see there, everything fit together pretty nicely. Now I'm going to polish up the flathead just a little bit on some 240 grit sandpaper. This is just a used random orbit pad. Rub it down just a little bit and you're good to go. Looks pretty nice. Now to turn my attention to the pinball arms made of maple, I'm going to sand them down to about 240 as well on a foam backed pad, which gives you a nice kind of rounded over feel. And again, Odie's oil is going to be the finish of choice for this, and it really does kind of put a nice luster on these pieces. So a little assembly now, putting the screws on, the pinball arms on, and the wing nuts, and this seems to be a crazy little thing, and if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm going to show you just now how this thing has improved my daily life during this pandemic. So there it is, that in a nutshell. Now, why is this helping me during COVID-19? Well, I'm gonna tell you why. Because in my culture, in my workplace, we as managers of a retail establishment, we used to all go to lunch together. Not all of us, but it would pick and choose. You know, hey, you wanna go grab a bite to eat? And it was kind of the culture. We would all, you know, have that camaraderie. And since COVID, nobody's really going out and eating together because, you know, the 6 feet apart thing. So this has been instrumental. Now, it's not that big a deal, yes, but it changes what you can actually have in your car. Typically, if you don't have something like this or a tray table, and you can have a sandwich, you know, something handheld, pretty easy, nothing too messy. But if you wanted ramen or like Panda Express, something like that, it would be a little tough. Now it feels like I have a tray table. Not to say this feels like a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, but it's the next best thing, right? Anyway, I really appreciate you guys being here for this video. This is one of those crazy projects that came to mind, and I've been using it now for a while. And quite frankly, it's gonna be tough to go back. And you know, today, I'll give you an example. Today, I forgot it. I left it here in the shop. And I got in the car and I was like, are you kidding? Anyway, it's pretty funny. Thank you again. I appreciate you being here. And again, I'll see you on the next video. If you liked it, let me know. Leave me a comment down below if you think it's silly or if you think it's, well, I think it's genius. Talk to y'all later. Bye.